Even though it has become a public knowledge that wrestling is a scripted affair, with every possible outcome being streamlined, it was and continues to be a very serious business. The wrestlers put in a lot of sacrifices to get the level of creating a modern day fighter for the joy and awe of their fans. During a wrestling match, a lot of things happen. For instance, what might appear like a minor bump on the head to the fans, it could be a heavier impact on the wrestler in the ring. In fact, just a few minutes in wrestling ring will drive the fear of God into the most critics of the superstar. That being said, all these wrestling stars put a lot of effort into entertaining their fans, including putting their bodies through hell and brimstone to be in shape for the fans. In the ring proper too, they go through a lot to keep their fans entertained, including escaping death by whiskers. But there are times when the body refuses to go along with these and just give up on them. In fact, during the spur of the moment too, in the ring during a match. Even though measures such as introduction of the WWE wellness program is trying to curb the occurrences of high death rate caused by the cardiovascular issues, studies still show that wrestler tends to die faster than their other sport counterparts. This piece will highlight 5 of the wrestling stars who died during action due to some well-avoidable circumstances or just the trouble of being a wrestler. At number 5, we have Luther Lindsay. He might appear like a total unknown person, but he was trailblazer in 1950s and 1960s. After breaking the racial barriers in wrestling, being the first African American wrestler to fight against white wrestlers in the South and becoming a fan favorite. He also accomplished a legendary feat when defeated Stu Hart in the Stu Dungeon. In February 1972, Lindsay was involved in a match in Charlotte, North Carolina, where he pinned his opponent after diving a splash to the mat. But when the referee counted to 3, he didn't respond. His limp body was removed from the top of his opponent and rushed to the dressing room, where it was learned that Lindsay was dead. He died from a sudden heart attack, and it was one that really drew the sympathy from the audience. At number 4, we have Janet Wolf. As wrestling started to become a popular sport in 1950s, women started stamping their feet on the sands of time, or better put, sands of wrestling. Women like Mildred Burke were already household names in the industry at that time. By 1951, she began looking for a replacement. This led to her started grooming 18-year-old Janet Boyer as her successor. She began working under the name of Janet Wolf, but 6 months into her career, she was dead. She was involved in a tag team match which included WWE star Mae Young in Liverpool, England. She had previously complained of a headache earlier. After tagging out in the match, she stood on the apron looking dazed and confused, suddenly fell. She never got up back and was soon pronounced dead. The cause of her death was ruled as brain hemorrhage. Now, at number 3, we have Mike DiBiase. He was the adoptive father of the $1 Million Man Ted DiBiase and was more famously known as Iron Mike DiBiase. He was one of the most prolific wrestlers and won a lot of titles during his days. However, on July 2, 1969, he was involved in a match against Mountain Man Mike in Lubbock, Texas. Halfway through the fight though, DiBiase suffered a heart attack, and despite several attempts by WWE and WCW legend Harley Race to revive him, he still capitulated to death in the hospital. Now at number 2, we have Pero Aguirre Jr. Our list continues with the account of Pero Aguirre Jr. This was one of the modern pro wrestling tragedies. Pero made himself a household name in fighting as a skilled wrestler in Lucha Libre promotions, AAA and CMLL. On March 25, 2015, he was involved in a tag team match with Manic against Rey Mysterio Jr. and Extreme Tiger in Tijuana, Mexico. The match appeared like a routine match until the later stages of the duel when Mysterio performed a dropkick on Pero. This sent him neck first into the roof so that Mysterio could perform his legendary move 619. But things turned sour when Pero's body went limp. Attempts to revive him proved abortive, and he was confirmed dead at the hospital. He was said to have suffered a cervical stroke due to multiple vertebrae injuries. Now, at last at number 1, we have Owen Hart. This was one of the most heart-wrenching tragic events in the history of WWE. Hart was one of the most beloved figures in the industry. He was the brother of WWE legend Bret Hart and was a graduate of his father's Hart Dungeon. He made himself fans' favorite by fighting a host of household names in the industry, including Stone Cold Steve Austin, His rival with his brother Brett was iconic, and his work with The Rock was praised by the entire WWE fan base. Unfortunately, his most recent stunt ended in a disaster. He was to be lowered into the ring by a harness in the 1999 over-the-edge pay-per-view event. He was to be dressed as the Blue Blazer and supposed to turn the dramatic entrance into a comedic one by falling flat on his face. But tragedy struck when Hart was released too soon, to the cable snapping halfway, and he plummeted down to almost 80 feet, whiplashed on the top rope before crashing into the ring. Although he was not pronounced dead immediately and was rushed to a local health facility, it was widely believed that he had died upon impact. He died from internal bleeding.